Our movie starts with Becky and her husband Dan climbing a mountain. They're at a very high altitude, still going up, aiming to reach the top. Dan is an experienced climber and highly motivated to reach the top, while Becky struggles, her footing slipping as though she might fall. She tries to stay steady, standing there terrified, with Dan encouraging her the entire way. Their friend Hunter is also climbing with them. At one moment, Dan reaches a section of the mountain where a bird suddenly flies right in front of him, causing him to lose his balance. He slips and falls, dangling from a rope and unable to grab onto the edge of the mountain. He tries to swing himself back to safety before the rope gives way, but time isn't on his side. The rope comes loose and Dan falls, dying in front of his wife Becky and their friend Hunter. 51 weeks after Dan's death, Becky's life is in complete shambles. She can't cope without him. Her father, James, tries to contact her in every way possible, but she has shut herself off from the world and refuses to speak to anyone. She spends most of her time in a bar, repeatedly calling Dan's number just to hear his recorded voice message, telling him how much she misses him. When she leaves the bar, she finds her father waiting for her. He tells her that she needs to pull herself together and start living her life again, reminding her that Dan wasn't the ideal husband to warrant mourning him for this long. She retorts that this is the worst way a father could try to console his daughter. He only wants her to snap out of it, saying that if things were reversed and she were the one who had died, Dan wouldn't have been devastated like she is now. She walks away without replying. When she gets home, she calls Dan's number again to hear his voice, but discovers that the number has been disconnected. This pushes her into an even darker place, and she contemplates suicide. Just as she's about to take all the pills in front of her, her friend Hunter calls, causing her to reconsider and answer the call. The next day, Hunter meets Becky and tells her that her father had reached out a while ago, describing her terrible state, and that's why she came. She has an idea that Becky might not like, but she hopes she'll be open to it. She shows Becky pictures of a TV tower, a tall structure 6 hours away from where they are. Hunter had planned to climb it over the weekend, but didn't want to do it alone. She wants Becky to join her, suggesting that it could be a beautiful way to honor Dan's memory. Becky could even take Dan's ashes and scatter them from the top. After much thought, Becky agrees to climb the tower with Hunter. They set off immediately, bringing their equipment and Dan's ashes to scatter from above. They stop at a restaurant near the tower, where Becky wants to charge her phone as it's about to die. They ask the waiter for directions to the tower, which doesn't appear on the map. The waiter tells them that the tower doesn't need a map to be seen and points out a distant light. Becky is surprised that the tower has a light on, as it's been out of service for a while. Hunter explains that the light at the top is to alert aircraft, and that it used to be the tallest tower in America, but now it's abandoned and is set to be demolished the following winter. They spend the night at the nearest hotel so they can start the climb the next day. They prepare all their equipment, and Hunter, who has a YouTube channel where she posts all her adventure videos, records herself talking about their upcoming climb to the top of the TV tower with her friend Becky. She notes that the tower is over 2,000 feet tall, or around 610 meters. As Hunter is focused on her phone, she nearly misses an oncoming truck, narrowly stopping in time to avoid an accident that would have totaled her car. This incident feels like a warning sign against their adventure, but they press on to the tower. When they reach the tower's gate, they find it locked with a padlock, so they have to continue on foot until they reach the tower itself. Hunter takes a video of the tower before starting the climb, mentioning that it's now the 4th tallest tower in America. They will face an 1,800-foot ladder within the metal cage structure, followed by a 200-foot ladder on the outside to reach the summit. When Becky sees the tower up close, she becomes afraid and wants to back out, but Hunter encourages her, saying she's strong and can do it. Hunter assures her that she won't leave her side. They begin climbing the tower, which is visibly rusty and worn out, ready to collapse. However, they don't pay much attention to this. Becky grabs one of the rungs on the ladder, and it breaks in her hand, falling between the metal bars of the tower. It becomes clear that some bolts on the tower are loose, rusty, and broken. They continue climbing until they reach the cables securing the tower, which means they've covered half the distance and are now at around 1,000 feet, about the height of the Eiffel Tower. They pause to rest and drink water from the packs on their backs before continuing. The higher they climb, the rustier the structure becomes until they finally emerge from the protective cage. Now they're standing on an external platform on the tower with only 200 feet left to reach the top. From here on, the ladder has no cage and there's no tower structure surrounding them. Hunter is very excited to reach the top, while Becky is terrified and wants to go back down, but her friend won't allow it. There's a satellite dish halfway up the ladder that they need to pass to continue climbing. Hunter tries to make light of the situation, joking about how rusted the ladder appears. She doesn't notice, however, that her movements are loosening the bolts, and some of them start falling off. Becky hears the sound of the bolts hitting the metal below. Finally, they reach the highest point possible on the tower, around 2,000 feet above the ground. Hunter hangs off the edge of the platform with one hand, asking Becky to take her picture with the drone they brought. She then encourages Becky to hang off the edge with one hand to help her overcome her fear, just like she used to do in the past. They take pictures, and afterward, Becky takes out Dan's ashes, crying as she talks about him, how he was always there for her whenever she needed him, and now she's left all alone. She scatters his ashes in the wind as a final farewell. Becky then starts to descend the tower, but as soon as she steps on the ladder, it begins shaking violently, loosening from its place. Becky slips off, but she's secured by a rope that's connected to Hunter, who hasn't started descending yet. Hunter manages to grab onto a metal bar beside her just in time before she's also pulled off the platform, preventing both of them from falling. Hunter holds onto Becky with all her strength, ensuring she doesn't lose her grip or fall. Finally, she manages to pull Becky back up onto the platform. Now they're both stuck, contemplating how to get down since the ladder is completely destroyed. They find no phone signal because they're so high up that there's no reception. There's a small box on the tower column containing binoculars and a flare gun with just one flare, their only hope of signaling someone to notice them. Before Becky panics, Hunter tries to reassure her, suggesting that the sound of the ladder crashing down was probably loud enough to attract someone's attention and that the police might already be on their way to rescue them. Then they notice their backpack, which contains their water supply, hanging down below them on the satellite dish, where it got caught when Becky nearly fell. They sit together, hoping someone will come to rescue them. Becky takes out her phone to record a video of Hunter, who says they're trapped 2,000 feet up on a tower with no way down. Becky then asks Hunter why she loves filming and posting everything on YouTube. Hunter explains that it's because of Dan, who made her realize how short life is and that every important moment should be captured. 5 hours pass without any movement around the tower. They monitor everything with binoculars, and Hunter checks her phone again, hoping for a signal. She remembers taking a photo before they climbed the tower and posting it on Instagram. This gives her an idea to write Instagram posts and lower the phone down with a rope, hoping it might catch a signal at some lower point and post the message for help. Hunter ties her phone to the rope, lowers it as far as possible, but nothing changes. Then Becky suggests that if they wrap the phone securely and throw it, it might survive the fall and pick up a signal on the ground. They place the phone inside Hunter's shoe, secure it tightly, and toss it down. After waiting for some time, they see a man and his dog walking below the tower. He's talking on the phone, and the dog sniffs around, passing by Hunter's phone, which is shattered from the fall. They scream and shout, hoping the man will hear them. Becky even throws a shoe in his direction, but he's too engrossed in his call and walks towards a car parked further away. Hunter suggests they wait until sunset to fire the flare they have, hoping he'll notice the light and come to help. As they wait, Becky watches her wedding video with Dan and notices, for the first time, that Hunter wasn't happy at the wedding. She had a strange expression while looking at them. Hunter interrupts Becky's thoughts, telling her the man is walking away and they need to fire the flare now. Becky tries, but the flare gun jams and the man is about to drive off. Just then, the flare lights up the sky, catching his attention. He drives towards them, reaching the gate where Hunter's car is parked. But instead of helping, he and his partner break into Hunter's car, stealing it and driving away. Hunter and Becky scream, realizing their last chance of rescue is gone. With no hope left, they fall asleep from exhaustion. In her sleep, Hunter almost slips off the tower, but Becky wakes her just in time. Becky then notices a tattoo on Hunter's ankle with the number 143 and realizes there was something between Hunter and Dan. To confirm her suspicion, Becky asks Hunter why Dan could never say he loved her and instead always use that number. Hunter, feeling guilty, admits that there was a brief affair between her and Dan 4 months before his death. She apologizes repeatedly, explaining it was a mistake and confesses she was afraid to tell her. As dawn breaks, Becky has given up hope of rescue. No one seems to have seen the Instagram post, if it even posted at all, and Hunter's phone is smashed on the ground. There's no other phone to throw and nothing left to cushion it. Then Hunter suggests one last desperate move. She'll try to reach their bag, which is caught on the tower's satellite dish, as it has water and their drone. She apologizes to Becky before going down the rope, unsure if she'll make it back. She carefully climbs down until she reaches the end of the rope, with only a small distance left to the bag. But she has to unclip from the rope to jump, successfully landing on the dish and retrieving the bag. Hunter attempts to reach the rope again, but it's too far. She uses her selfie stick to hook the bag onto the rope, creating a weighted loop to pull it closer. Finally, she grabs the rope and begins climbing back up. Becky helps by pulling on the rope to speed up Hunter's ascent, but just before reaching the top, Hunter slips, and Becky is terrified she might have fallen to her death like Dan. But Hunter calls out, revealing she managed to cling to the bag at the last moment, although her arm is severely injured and she can't climb any further. Becky pulls Hunter up the rest of the way, and they share some water. Becky then writes an SOS message, attaches it to the drone, and sends it toward the hotel they stayed at, hoping someone will see it. As the drone flies away, they realize its battery is almost dead and it might crash any second, so it turns back toward them before fully running out of power. They wait through another night, exhausted, until Becky dozes off to spite herself. When she wakes, she is horrified to find Hunter missing. Panicking, she searches for her, calling her name, terrified that Hunter might have fallen while she slept. In a terrible shock, she imagines seeing Hunter's lifeless body below, with birds pecking at her remains. But then Becky suddenly wakes up from this nightmare. It was only a dream. She looks up and notices a warning light on the tower flickering on and off, giving her an idea to use its electricity to charge the drone. When dawn arrives, Becky climbs up to the light with the drone and charger. She replaces the bulb with the charger, using Dan's wedding ring as a conductor to make the connection work, and the drone begins charging. But as she's hanging there, a vulture, attracted by the blood on her leg, attacks her, causing her bag to fall. Becky struggles against the bird, holding on until the drone is fully charged. She returns to the platform, exhausted, and asks Hunter why she didn't try to catch the falling bag. Hunter avoids answering, leaving Becky puzzled. With the drone charged, Becky tries to fly it toward the nearby hotel to send a message. Just as it's nearing the destination, a passing truck hits the drone, leaving it destroyed in the road without anyone noticing. Despairing, Becky realizes rescue may never come, but Hunter remains eerily calm. Then Becky decides to throw her own phone down as a last-ditch effort, like they did with Hunter's, using her shoe for protection. She asks Hunter for her other shoe, but Hunter suddenly reveals the truth. She doesn't have it because she's not really there. Hunter had died earlier after falling onto the satellite dish. Everything Becky had seen was just a figment of her imagination, and she is truly alone. Coming to terms with the reality, Becky calms down and records a message to her father, James, apologizing for how she treated him and expressing her love. Sitting alone on the tower, Becky eventually spots the vulture again, drawn by her injured leg. She catches it, slams its head against the metal, and kills it. Driven by survival instinct, she eats some of the raw meat to regain strength. Determined to get her final message down, she climbs to Hunter's actual body on the satellite dish, puts her phone inside Hunter's shoe, and secures it within her body. She then pushes Hunter's corpse off the tower, hoping it will reach the ground intact with the phone. Exhausted, she waits on the tower, resigned to either being rescued or dying there. Eventually, her father arrives at the tower with the police, who have tracked the location. As her father approaches, he sees a body bagged and fears the worst, but Becky calls out to him, and he realizes she's alive. Relieved, Becky tells him she loves him and apologizes, grateful to have survived this harrowing ordeal. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more content like this. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.